So I think Industrial Revolution was all about amplifying our muscles, and Internet of Things is all about amplifying our minds. And so I think people have made the analogy that we are not just the Internet of Things, but generally, you know, at a point where we're seeing some massive boost in productivity caused by computing.
But I think the analogy with the Industrial Revolution is one that you're always going to make. And I tweeted this morning about how the question is the Internet of Things end-to-end on steroids is about saying whether trains are the future of transport. If you think end-to-end as being trained, it's good for a particular set of applications in certain verticals, and it's utterly rubbish for some others. And you know, will trains replace bicycles? It's that almost that sort of question, and I know Paul asked it to be provocative. But the Industrial Revolution was about fundamentally changing people's way of life and making people radically more productive. And in that respect, the Internet of Things could be very interesting.
So that was one of the key issues with the Industrial Revolution, wasn't it? Because actually in the early days you had lots and lots of pockets and bits of innovation that were happening separately that didn't become joined up for some while. And so we saw that happening in various locations, even in the UK and in Germany and so on, where you had specific areas, and because transportation was difficult, those things didn't become joined up very early on. When they became joined up, suddenly there was a kind of explosion. So there's a kind of joined upness that we're kind of wandering around the edge of at the moment, because I'm seeing sort of lots of little, not just silos of implementation, but I'm seeing silos of thought and silos of activity. And actually, until some of those start becoming not just interoperable, but interrelated in terms of their concepts. And one example of that, for example, is that when Abraham Darby, invented a mechanism for casting pots, that was pretty good. And then suddenly you can have a pot that you could make, you could make a stew on easily. And then Wedgwood came along and produced very cheap crockery that could be bought by the masses, and suddenly gave them a better quality of life. But he couldn't get it to market, because as they took it along the road, all the crockery broke, because they only had horses and carts.
So you then needed canals to be invented.
And then canals were invented, and it solved the problem. And suddenly you could get it everywhere, you could distribute it, and you could do it safely. But then you needed someone to make bridges and the mechanism for holding a canal up, that otherwise it didn't work either there. So there was this proliferation that occurred. Now, what I'm seeing perhaps happening at the moment is we've got kind of the internet, which we've got kind of used to, but that's actually only like the kind of railway tracks or the canal. Maybe what we've got around the outside of this is this kind of creative engineering, a completely different way of thinking about other parts of our activity that come into play. Because actually what happened in the Industrial Revolution was completely unrelated companies were coming together that didn't appear to have anything to do with each other. There was clearly no connection between making china and digging a canal. They just don't seem to be similar at all. The business models are totally different. What's that all about? But it enabled each other. And that's the thing that I think we're talking about with the Internet of Things. Because it doesn't matter if you manufacture in your silo, in your factory, or you have this particular way of viewing the world. What's happening is people who didn't think they had a connection with each other suddenly found a really critical connection that made both of their businesses work.